Hey, welcome. This is the post-election strategy briefing, as promised. I'm Dale. I'm the COO of Field Team 6, and welcome to this. It's great to see everybody in the chat. Please put where you're zooming in from. It's great to see so many partners on the call. It's so many super volunteers and so many new names. So welcome to all 97 plus of you right now. I don't want to take any more time. I just want to introduce you to my brother in arms, the founder of Field Team 6, who got a haircut today, Jason Berlin. Who's me?
That is right. I hope you enjoy it. I had to have two men hold me down and just shear me like a sheep. It was very it's a rebirth situation. Thank you all so much for being here. 97 people. Hell yeah. At our official strategy briefing post 2023 election. We're going to call it Here It Comes. I actually made a last minute decision to change it, the title of this strategy briefing to Here We Go, because Here It Comes it's just a little too like it's something we can't affect, and this is something we absolutely can affect. It's more like here we go, like we're about to go on a roller coaster. We know we are. So I want to start with a statistic that most people don't know. We've all heard that young people turn out to vote at about 27% rate. What most people don't know is that registered young people who were 18 to 24 in the 2020 election came out to vote at a rate of 86%. The simple act of registration turned them into super voters. Another thing people might not know, in general, registered voters of all ages in a presidential election tends to turn out at a rate of 85%. So it's not just young people either. What all of this teaches us is that, counter to popular wisdom, if we want to win more elections, our greatest weakness is not turnout. Our greatest weakness is lack of registered Democrats. And that's where we come in. Field Team 6 is the one and only national organization doing proudly partisan voter registration all year, every year, in the swing states and districts where just a few voters decide elections. We've been doing this for almost 5 years now, thanks to every one of you, every single volunteer and donor who has kept us alive. And we started in 2019, having helped register about 6,000 Democratic voters. Now, that number is about 2.5 million. You are not having a TIA. That's not a typo. That's a real number. We get this done because we register Democrats both in person and digitally. When COVID hit in 2020, it could have shut us down. We were an all in-person organization at the time, in-person voter drives only. Instead of that, with your help, we got stronger than we could ever have imagined. We built a one-of-a-kind database, the only one in the country, of millions of unregistered likely Democrats across the country, the vast majority in swing states. This database is our secret weapon, and it's the basis for all our digital outreach, including texting, phoning, postcarding, and email, sometimes even direct mail. In 2020, the voters that you helped register defeated the Orange Devil. In 22, they turned what was supposed to be a red wave into more of a rosé spritz. You did that. And in 24, those plus all the additional Democrats that we are going to register together are going to win it all. Other organizations spend between $20 and $150 to register a voter. We do it, and we owe this to our over 18,000 volunteers across the country for $1 each. And it's not just any voter either. It's a Democratic voter in a swing state that we register. $1 a Democrat. There's no better deal in activism. So what we do is the number one way to win elections. So to everyone who has volunteered and donated over the years, I'm asking you if you can continue to do the voodoo that you do so well. And now, here's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Here we go. On the menu, first, some game-changing findings from the 22 cycle. Next, what Field Team 6 pulled off in 23. And last, how we win in 24. So we got a lot to dive into. I'm going to toss it to Dale now so we can get into the first part, game-changing findings from 22.
Thanks, Jason. You are about to hear some interesting stuff from Patti Crane, who is part of a duo of incredible super volunteers who dug deep into the data from the 22 cycle. And I don't know how really best to describe this other than anytime that I meet with these two. And by the way, it's Patti Crane and Peter Hosey. And it is such deep diving into data and how to think about data and how to present data that all that happens to me when I'm in a meeting with them is I see that green data rain from the Matrix. And it just goes all very quiet in my mind, like it's the tundra. But over the last several months, these two have been like college students pulling all-nighters, and they have done it all to present this to you tonight. And I can't tell you how excited I am to welcome Patti Crane to present it all. Patti, you're muted.
Okay. Thank you so much. Are you hearing me okay? I missed the sound check. So
Yep. You're good.
Okay, excellent. And I'm just so honored and so delighted to be in front of so many people, many names that I know and trust and love from all the years of activism. Think where we've come from and what we've done. Now I'm going to hit the share screen button and hope that it works. Are you seeing the first slide there?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Okay, it worked. Well, what is the first thing that we are supposed to do and want to do and love to do? It's to say thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you for helping to register Democrats and independent progressives, because it makes all the difference in the world. It absolutely does. So you remember what we did in the last cycle, surely you do, which was worth celebrating, because remember, it was the pandemic. And so this was our pivot. And in our pandemic pivot, we registered more than 750,000 Democrats. And that's after our time when we were an in-person voter registration organization, wondering if there was a way to get to 100,000 registrants in a full cycle. And yet, after the pandemic pivot, it was a gift to us in that one odd way, because we had to pivot to go digital and we had to figure it out. So once we said, wow, you can do this, because everyone told us you cannot register voters digitally. So don't even try, just fold up your tent, go home. And of course, Jason Berlin is running this show. And so the answer to that is always the stubborn no. Those of you who know him know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so then what happened? Well, wow, we got through the Georgia runoffs. We got those 2 senators. We kept registering voters until Georgia wouldn't let us anymore. And then we turned around and said, well, what have we got now? Well, we had expertise. We had knowledge. We had some track record, although didn't even have the money to go back and do all the analysis that we would have liked to have done, because all those states charge you to look at their databases. At any rate, what we were able to do is to keep acquiring these names of unregistered likely Democrats from all sorts of different sources, and Corey Alpert and Dale and Jason. They were very cunning in how they played one data vendor off against another. And have you got this? And how you doing in Arizona? And what's going on with those Florida names? And et cetera, et cetera. And lo and behold, by the time we entered this cycle, we were at 13,188,767 names, which is insane. And if you don't think that's a lot, all you need to do is put it into Peter Hosey's Macintosh and try and get it to process. Particularly the people in the 13 million, some of the people in that 13 million got, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 contacts. So you have to process them 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 times while you're doing the data analysis. Well, oh my gosh. So we couldn't reach out to everybody. Why not? We didn't have the money to pay to text them, or we didn't have the volunteers necessarily to write postcards to all 13 million. Postcards are expensive, as we know, though the volunteers are wonderful about funding it. And so instead, what we did, anytime a partner group or a donor or a group of volunteers came to us and said, we want to focus here, or we want to focus there, or we want to focus somewhere else, we were like, yep. Here we are, as long as it's a battleground state or a battleground flippable district, here we go. And at the very least, we'll share the names and the information with you and the techniques of how we do the outreach so that we can have the best yields possible. So we went after these 5.02 million unregistered likely Democrats in the whole cycle. So how'd we go after them? Well, when you're doing it from the the comfort of your own sofa, there's only a certain amount you can do. And so you can do phone banking, obviously, and the postcarding and text banking. We have 2 kinds of text banking and emailing. Interestingly enough, when you look at those 5 million names, we reached out to every one of them 1.92 times. That's an average number. So some people only heard from us once, but then again, there was that guy who heard from us 17 times. And when Peter found that person in the database, Peter posted it to our Slack channel and said, "Dear God, I hope this person registered." At any rate, it was very fun for us to look, but the average was just under 2 touches, 2 outreaches per person. So anyway, the results were so much fun to start seeing, because 1.687446 million, almost 1 2/3 million, beyond 1 2/3 million of these people registered either as a Dem or as a progressive independent. A few of them also registered as Republicans, and they are not in that number. Part of the data analysis was sifting any few Republicans out of the registration, which was completely not fun to see that in spite of our protestations, we triggered a few Republicans. But you know what? 92% of the time, the people we registered the way we want to see them, which is for the democracy in the American way. So that was exciting. So these are our stunning results. So if you want to see it on a graph, this is a big, fat, simple graph. The thing on the left is the 5 million names we reached out to, and the thing on the right shows you that 1 in 3 of these people registered as Democrats. And how cool is that? How good is that? Well, where were they? All right. First of all, you know where they were. They were in these battleground states that we've all been obsessing over. I am so tired of dealing with Wisconsin, but I'm not as tired of it as Ben Wickler has to be. God love him. He's so fabulous. But Wisconsin was amazing. And so did we work hard on the Wisconsin elections? Absolutely, yes, we did, including more recently. But Wisconsin delivered for the governor that last time, and that was so important. So this is the number of registrations that were done in the 8 target states. And that's in the 8 target states, it was 1.5 million. So that's an incredible, incredible success. And by the way, our budget over this 2-year period was 1.4 million, under 1.5 million. And so you can see why it's the old dollar a Democrat. In fact, it's less. At any rate, take a look at some of these other little places. Like, wait a minute, 3.5K in Kansas? Well, guess what? Somebody was worried about Kansas, and there was a little bit of money available to buy some names in Kansas for about 10 cents each. And we wanted to make sure that Sharice David won in Kansas 03. So we went after that. So you might see some work in Iowa. You definitely see some work in Michigan, 47,000 people, et cetera. So even in the states that weren't part of the target states, we definitely are 1.68 million. We're spread over some of the states. Now, here's something weird. If you think it averages out, nothing averages out. And nothing about Wisconsin, for instance, is comparable to Nevada. We already know that. For instance, Nevada is a very transient state. 1/3 of the people who live there move in or out in a given year, which is just an astounding number. So voter registration is super, super tough. But anyway, this tells you, good old Wisconsin, oh my gosh, of the people we contacted, 51.6% of them, half of them registered. Of the people in Nevada, it was a much tougher sell. It was 15.6%. But when you think about the tiny little hundreds and thousand vote margins in some of those Nevada races, was 27,000 new Democratic voters worth it? Yes, it was. Absolutely, yes, it was. So let's just go ahead and take a look at Arizona as an example. Arizona was very close to our average rate of yield. It was at 32.1% of yield, and overall we're at 33. So I think that one's really close. So I wonder, do we think that it made any difference in Arizona? Do you think our 127,051 new Democratic voters were of any help there? Well, okay, let's see the margin by which Senator Mark Kelly won. Oh my goodness, look at that. It's almost a perfect match, 125,719. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at Governor Katie Hobbs, who's been vetoing things left and right from the legislature that keeps doing all these questionable things and has all these election deniers in it. Her margin was 17,117. So I'm guessing that our 127,051 new Dem or progressive independent voters in Arizona helped make a difference. I think that's an important thing. All right, so wait a minute. We did this digitally, even though everybody told us that we couldn't. I was there when we got told that we couldn't, by the way, pre-pandemic. And I just remember the pain. It was almost physical pain to hear that this wonderful little enterprise that Jason had founded and that Dale had joined up with, and so many of you had joined up with, was getting told to forget it. And we said no. So what does Field Team 6 do differently? It's not like the League of Women Voters that does a lovely job registering 1/3 Democrats, 1/3 Republicans, and 1/3 no party preferences or whatever. Field Team 6 did partisan voter registration. Remember when Jason taught us all to walk up to people on those college campuses we used to go to for our voter drives, and we would essentially say, hey, you want to help me protect the world from Trump? Do you want to help me protect democracy? Do you want to help protect a woman's right to choose? Do you want to help protect whatever was the issue in the local area? And people would say yes with that. And by the way, Jason always had like 20 different so-called liberal-looking T-shirts that he kept in his drawers. And he'd pull out another wrinkly T-shirt on all of his travels to show people another thing with an Obama thing on it or a Hillary thing or whatever, just so it was really clear. Well, the partisan voter registration is still our difference. League of Women Voters has to teach people they can't do that, but that's because they're a 501c3 organization that is tax exempt. But Jason put us together as a PAC, and we can be partisan. So what do? The way we do phone banking, the way we phrase and shape our postcarding, the way we do the scripts for our text banking, and definitely the way we give great email is different at Field Team 6 than what you would see from a more typical organization. And that's why there's so much back and forth and so much care about what's going on with things. So let's go ahead and take a look at how some of these methods work. So let's look at some yields by different kind of combination. Now, I need to explain that what you're looking at isn't a few hundred people. Remember Sunday, a week and a half ago, when somebody tried to stop Joe Biden's presidency second term by talking to 600 people, some of whom were iffy about the age or efficacy of Joe Biden. They tried to have 600 people stand in for the entire United States. No, this info is based on 4.7 million of our 5.5 million people that we contacted. So this is huge information with huge sample sizes that really, really tells a story. So let's take a look at yield. All right. If people only got one or more phone calls, and in your head for this group, think 1.85 times that they were likely to get 1.85 touches, which we know is impossible, but that's how it averages out. Essentially, phone bank only, 24.83%. And yes, we're going to 2 decimal points. Just be patient with us. Oh, okay. Postcarding only, also 1 in 4. Wow. 24.91%. That's really awesome, because I remember when we used to postcard with Indivisible and we were told that if you can get 1 in 10 or 2 in 10 of the people you're writing to step up, that would be an amazing yield. Well, look at this yield, because these lists are curated and they're so good and they're so strong. Well, let's take a look at text, which is known in the business as SMS. Wow. All right, it's moving up there, 31.09%. So if you only got texted, even though all of us turn off our phones and say, would you quit chasing me around with text? Guess what? Text, 31% of the people that we texted with went out and registered as a Democrat or an independent progressive voter. So that's pretty good. Oh my goodness, what happens when you try email? 46.9%. I was in the marketing profession for 35 years. I owned my own strategic marketing advisory firm that only worked with universities and nonprofits. I would have given my IT for an email yield of, 15%. That would have been considered best in industry. But look at this, 46.94%. Oh, wait, what about a combo? What happens? Well, phone plus text. Sometimes those phone calls and texts were going into really difficult areas, and that influences some of this. It was still a large N, but it was often what we had to use in difficult areas, 21.85%. Okay, what about postcard plus text? All right, it's a little better, closer to our other one, so 24.13%. What's left? Okay, when you combine an email and a postcard, 37.17%. How awesome is that? And oh my gosh, email, 46.94%. Wow. Okay, email plus postcard plus text at 37.42. And finally, email plus text, 49.1%. I've just never seen anything like this in my life, in politics or in professional marketing. It's just amazing, and it's so exciting. So all I want to say, other than I'd be glad to answer questions if anybody has any about this, is say, can we go ahead, even before we do the strategy, and just celebrate for a second these 1.687 million new Democratic voters? How cool is that? So, what's our job? Guess what? Registered Democrats save the world. And Jason, I'm going to unshare the screen and hand it back to you.
So, Patti, thank you so much for that. We all want this data the day after we do a text bank. It just doesn't work that way. It takes a while for us to figure out like what it is that we've done. Look at us. We're revealing these numbers of the efficacy of our methods almost a year after the midterms. It takes that long, not only for the data to be refreshed, for all of the state tables. We compare all of our unregistered likely Democrat data to all 50 states of registered voter tables. That's what they call it, the voter rolls in all 50 states. And that takes a while for them to report after an election. And then it actually takes real time to dig into the data to see what actually happened. And so many, many thanks to Peter and Patti for all of the many hours that they've devoted to this. I am absolutely astounded. By the way, we haven't been sitting on this for weeks. We've known this for about a day and a half. We have basically figured this out because we put this on the calendar to present it to you. So I can't thank Patti and Peter enough. And we'll save questions for the Q&A at the end, but and I'm sure there are going to be great questions that come out of this. But yes, let's take a minute to celebrate. And right after that minute, which is going to actually last about 7 more seconds, we're going to go to Jason, because now he's going to tell us what we did in 2023. But here's what's going to have to happen is that he's going to tell us what we did is outreach, but we don't know yet the real numbers of people that registered. We don't know yet who actually voted, because all of that information still is yet to come. That's going to take months for us to figure that out. But we can extrapolate because we have real data from the 22 cycle. We have real data from the 20 cycle. So that, by the way, all of you who are excited to help us out in 2020, you should be ecstatic to help us out now, because we actually know that what we're doing works. Jason.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to read something that Peter posted in the chat. Key point here: every method works. Every method helps. Do what works for you. You're part of a team greater than yourself that delivers tremendous results by these methods combined. Peter works behind the scenes. He did all this deep dive into data. I feel like I'm kind of a smart guy. I have no idea what he's talking about. So much of this, it's just so many levels above. And I am just so honored and just grateful beyond words to Peter for your work on all this, to Patti, who's such a communications genius and so good at interpreting, explaining in an easy to understand way these super difficult, complicated concepts. It's amazing. Dale is a genius at almost everything. I'm so grateful to all of you on the call, who so many of you are geniuses, and really, like, that's what keeps us going and makes us so effective. Everyone wants to take whatever anyone can contribute, and it's amazing the staggering quality of all of you here. So that data breakdown, that information that you just presented, that's like just dessert to me. That's I could just watch that on a loop all day long. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do over Thanksgiving vacation. So I want to present what Field Team 6, meaning all of you, pulled off in 2023. This year, our volunteers registered new Democrats for all 8 major national elections. We decided go where the action is and do all the good we can. So here's a breakdown in the 8 states. I'm not going to go through every number on every state. It's too much. You just need to let it wash over you, and just absorb the beauty of this immense effort. It took so much skill, love, hard work to achieve this level of outreach. Though, if you want to pay attention to one number, this number right here, Field Team 6 volunteers contacted 22,949 in Kentucky's case, unregistered likely Democrats, with the goal of registering them in all these different ways. This number, I've arranged it from lowest to highest. So you'll see that go up with each of the 8 states, as well as, all of these numbers. So in Kentucky, here's what we did. In Mississippi, where Elvis's cousin was running for governor, here's what we did. Contacted 38,000 people over all these different ways. Free BYOP texts are much more difficult to send than the normal paid text, but they are free. And we'll have more on that later. New Jersey contacted almost 56,000 people. We made one phone call.
Accidentally. I think we made that accidentally.
The guy was so rude. We were like, nope, that's it. That's it. No more calls for you, New Jersey. Louisiana, over 66,000 people contacted. And then we're getting up in the numbers here. Pennsylvania, over 81,000 contacted. Over 117,000 paid texts. I have to shout out our amazing partner, Forward Blue, who sponsored the great majority of the texts this year, the paid texts. As you saw, it's a super effective way to register Democrats. In Virginia, over 145,000 people contacted. Look at that, almost 300,000 paid texts. In Ohio, over 153,000 contacted. Over 318,000 paid texts and free BYOP texts, almost 30,000 of those to add to it. In Wisconsin, 500, over 500,000 unregistered likely Democrats contacted, and almost that many paid texts. So, using a conservative estimate, we've seen that our results in the last cycle which were in line with our results of the 2020 cycle, were about 33%. And then in the key 8 battleground states, they went up to 36%. Let's be conservative because we're just extrapolating and say with using 30%. Here's how many new Democratic voters we project registered in our 2023 target states this year due to all our outreach efforts. All right, are you ready? Take a deep breath. Here it comes. Dun 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 dun. These results are amazing. These numbers contributed to Democratic Governor Beshear getting reelected in a red state by 5 points, more than he was originally elected by. In Mississippi, we lost, but we did get within 5 points of what would have been an incredible upset. That means next time we actually do it. New Jersey, we held the state legislature. Republicans tried to take it over. We repulsed them. Louisiana was a loss. It hurt. This just tells us how real this fight is that we are in. We don't win everywhere. Louisiana, we did register a whole ton of new Democratic voters there, though, who will help us push it further left over time. We keep going. Keep helping our badass activist friends in Louisiana. Pennsylvania, Supreme Court secured. We pushed it into a good Democratic majority where we will not have to be on the edge of our seats worrying about abortion rights and gerrymandering, things like that. Virginia, The entire state legislature is Democratic. We've not only held the Senate, but we flipped the House of Delegates. That was incredible. Maybe most importantly, Governor Youngkin, who was not only ready to remove abortion rights and make aggressive war on voting rights with a detailed plan to do it, he had presidential ambitions. Those are quashed. Amazing. That is beautiful. In Ohio, of course, in 2 landslides, we won abortion rights by 13 points. Not close. Marijuana legalized by 14 points. That is gorgeous. Ohio, considered a red state. This is what we do when we work together. And Wisconsin, back in April, when we elected Justice Janet Protasewicz, we flipped the Supreme Court for the first time in a generation. And that was an incredible win for abortion rights and undoing the incredible gerrymandering in what may be the most gerrymandered state in the union. There are cases proceeding right now that will hopefully undo the gerrymandering at the state legislative level in Wisconsin. Look what you did. This isn't an off year, okay? I want to make the point that in, there are going to be a lot more polls, like the New York Times Siena poll that came out that said 1 year out, Biden's going to lose. It's like predicting the weather 1 year out. Those polls don't matter. The polls that do matter are the actual elections. Those are the data points that we base our strategy on, that we as activists have to be realistic. We have to have clear vision, because that's what guides us to the places we can help most. Without clear vision, we are not effective. So we have to look at these data points that are given to us by elections. What we have are in April, in Wisconsin, we flipped the Supreme Court by 11 points, not a little. In August, in the dead of summer in Ohio, Republicans tried to move the goalposts. They thought no one would show up. Everyone showed up. There is a national activist infrastructure we are super proud to be a part of, and we've trained our fire on Ohio. We won by 14 points. 14? Yes, it was. It was 14 points we won by in the dead of summer. And then the third and biggest data point was 1 week ago, elections in multiple states. Okay, we could find one election and pick it off. Could we do this in multiple states? The answer was a resounding yes that echoed across the country. We did it in Virginia and Kentucky and and Pennsylvania and what state did I just forget? Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, of course. So those are the polls you look at. Connect those dots, those 3 dots. Those dots, the line that they create points to a giant sweep in 24. And this is what we have to focus on, creating the biggest blue wave that we have ever seen. We're set up for it. We are an organized force. We have been organizing for now 7 years. That's almost 2 full Army stints. We've learned a lot, and we've become very effective. And I want to, as I'm saying all these amazing things that we have done, included in that we always, and of course, are all our partners, without which none of this happens. We, unlike a religion, you can be in many groups at once, and many of us are, and that's great. And so these are not all, but just some of the amazing, amazing partners that it is our incredible honor to work with and share. They share their volunteers, we share ours. A rising tide lifts all boats. And thank God for all of these organizations and the amazing work they do.
We've probably forgotten somebody. I actually had Jason add a logo here while the countdown video was playing. So don't be upset if you're not here, and you should be. This was put together very quickly, and it's just a representation of the number of partners that we are working with currently.
So many good ones. So many good ones. Oh, and can't forget Bob Haar.
Oh, who doesn't actually have a name for his organization, but literally writes tens of thousands of postcards with his writers. So amazing.
He's just a guy.
He's just a guy. We wanted to shout him out in the newsletter, and I just came up with a logo for him myself and called him the Bob Har Resistors. But yeah, he's just a guy. He lives in Kansas, and he has a whole bunch of writers that write postcards, and he will be delighted with the latest metrics on how effective that is.
Yes. Which brings us to how we win in 24. So we have to, first of all, define win. Okay, what do we mean? We want to win it all, everything. We want to, and this is just what would fit on the slide. We want to win more than this, all the way down the ballot. That's the beauty of registering. What we register is a voter, not a vote. So many of these people will not just vote this election, but many elections for the rest of their lives, affecting hundreds of elections. We want to win it all. We want to take back the House. We can absolutely do that. We just need 5 net seats to do that. We can do it. We need to hold the Senate. This is the hardest of these 3. It is an extremely narrow runway with Manchin's retirement. It just got a little narrower. We are not sad to see him go, just to clarify. But what that means is we can hit 50. That is the top that it's a purely defensive game with the Senate this cycle. We need to protect our most vulnerable Democrats. Tester in Montana, who was awesome, and Sherrod Brown in Ohio, who is wonderful. And they're well liked in their states. It will still be an uphill battle because their states are red. And in a presidential year, Trumpers will come out. We're focused on them. Help us in Ohio and Montana. Oh, by the way, strategically, of course, we knew that every single Democrat we registered this year in Ohio will help us keep Sherrod Brown in next year. So we already got a head start, which we'll need. And we need to defend the White House, of course, from the Orange Devil. We all know that in our bones. To do this, we're going to register another 3 million swing state Democratic voters, and we're going to raise 3 million to do it. 3 million for 3 million. That, to me personally, that's a lot of money. To a national organization that is not. And there are so many that are funded so far beyond this. This is what we got to hit. That's our goal. Targeting is one way that we're going to get there. So this is the question here. What are all the ways we can get those 3 million registered for $3 million? The first way is targeting. We're very smart about the strategic places that we register Democrats. First of all, we start with these, we're going to build up to 11, but we start with these 7 core triple word score states, where at least in some part of this state, every Democrat we register can help us win a swing House seat, a swing Senate seat, and win the White House. Now, can anyone tell me, looking at this, this is kind of a trick map here. There is one state here that is not quite a triple word score state. Can anyone tell me which it is? Anybody in the chat? California, true, but that's not lit up. Any of the ones that are lit up right here, these 7 triple word score states. Keith Richmond, very smart. Barbara Stevens, very smart. Cheryl Johnson, very smart. Julie Glade, very smart, but not correct. North Carolina, Alice Watson got it. Yes. And okay, it's North Carolina. And that is because while there are House seats that we need to swing, it does not have a Senate seat in play. In addition to the House seats, it is also kind of the definition right next to Virginia, could be the next Virginia. It's the definition of a swing state. And they voted for Obama the first time. We need to flip them for Biden and work on those House seats as well. Also, some important down ballot races like Jeff Jackson, our friend who is currently a representative there. He was redistricted out of his seat. He's running now for Attorney General, and would be amazing. So Very good. Thank you for being so crazy smart, all you people. Okay, we start with those 7, triple word score. We add 2 more for the Senate, Montana and Ohio. We absolutely need them to hold our 50 in the Senate. So with Kamala as the tiebreaker, we can pass game-changing voting rights and abortion rights. And to those 2, we also add, ding, ding, New York and California for the House, because either one of those states alone can take back the House. And that is our targeting. Those 11 states are where we will be working like crazy from now till next November 5th. The next way we win is, of course, funding. And I am going to stop sharing and throw it back to Dale to talk about that part, the hard part.
Yeah, funding matters. You can see that what we can do with funding. To send a text from your own phone, it costs nothing, which is why we created BYOP texting. That's the free version. But if you want to send 5,000 texts, a single volunteer send 5,000 texts in a 2-hour shift, that costs money. It costs 4 cents, maybe 5 cents a time. It's 8 cents if you want to track who clicked on it. So it costs real money. And of course, there's the infrastructure that keeps this whole organization alive. It's legal and compliance and database costs and software, and this Zoom call costs money, et cetera, et cetera. All of it costs money. So yeah, your donation makes a real difference. And by the way, the donations that happened last year during a midterm were higher than this year in an off year. That's not a surprise, but it does make it more difficult for us to do more work. We're down 59% this year over last year, if you can believe that. But we're still here and we're still doing work. So anything that you can give makes a huge difference. And yes, as Patti noted in her presentation, it's about $1 a Democrat. It's about $1 a Democrat. In the 22 cycle, we had a 1.4 million budget, and we registered 1.6 something, something, something. I have it written on an envelope here. 1.687446. So it's actually less than $1 a Democrat. The reason that we're saying $1 a Democrat as a shorthand for the 24 cycle is because there are states that we didn't own data going into. In 2020, when we did our pandemic pivot, we ended up buying a whole bunch of data for the first time. And that data has served us well as we rolled into the 22 cycle and we started doing work in 23 for the 24 cycle. Absolutely, that data that we've already purchased, we keep refreshing it each year, checking it against all the voter tables in all 50 states to make sure that those people are still unregistered. And then we do the work on those people only. By the way, we've got 2 piles of data now, right? As we're successful, we keep moving people into the registered pile, and that pile keeps getting bigger too. So we have 2 piles, but the unregistered data we don't have in certain states that are targets this cycle. So we need to raise more money for new data, and we need to reach out to those people. Emails are incredibly effective, as you saw in Patti's presentation. Emails are incredibly effective, and they are the most expensive thing we do. No, that's a lie. It's the cheapest thing we do. I was just seeing if you're paying attention, Patti. It's actually a half a cent to send an email. Patti's presentation showed us that 49% was it 49 or was that within? Yeah, 49% of people who got an email ended up getting registered after we reached out to them. That's incredible for a half a cent. It was actually Patti's idea to try to raise money to email every person that we did not reach in the 22 cycle that was in our database that had an email address. There happened to be 2.3 million email addresses we did not touch. And yes, because of Patti's idea, we put together a fundraiser. I haven't updated it, so if you wanted to go to the Field Team 6 website, that donate button still goes to that page, even though we hit the 17,000 we needed to raise to email all of them twice. 11,000 got us to email everybody once, and the additional money got us the second, because it's the half cent is actually, I'm getting into the weeds here, but the half cent is actually a quarter cent to upload it and a quarter cent to send it. So the second email is just a quarter cent to send that second email. So we are planning, if we haven't sent them already, we are sending, oh, look, I put up my two fingers and I get balloons. Great. This is the new Zoom. I don't know what's going on. For every 3/4 of a cent, we can send 2 emails. And so we've already raised $17,600 to send 2 emails to each of the, Jeff is trying this right now to see if he gets it. It's not. You got to update your Zooms, Jeff. We can send 2 emails to each of those 2.3 million unregistered likely Democrats in our database who have email addresses this year. So that, why is this important? Because when we refresh our data at the end of this year, we're going to know who's already registered. And so all of those people get put into the registered pile. And then all of the people who are still unregistered will get our outreach, right? This is why partnerships are so important too. Try to do this somersault with me. Patti mentioned that in the 22 cycle, we were sitting on 13 million records, of which, even with partners, we were only able to reach 5 million of them. That meant that 8 million of those records just sat there untouched because we didn't have the resources. We didn't have the volunteers or the money to reach out to them. Well, partnerships means that we can reach more people. We have 200 partners now. Imagine how many of those 5 million we wouldn't have been able to reach if we didn't have all of those partners. Well, we want more partners. And for that, I'm going to throw to Kala Maxym, who is our partnerships lead, and she's going to talk about partnerships just for a second.
Hello, everybody. I'm doing the spotlighting, and it's really weird to spotlight yourself, by the way. Hi, everybody. My name's Kala. I am the partnerships lead at Field Team 6, and I am so excited to see so many of my partner friends on the call. Thank you for coming. We are as strong as you. We have over 200 partners that we work with at Field Team 6 that we've gathered over the last couple of years, and we love every one of you. That is everyone from sort of national organizations and huge statewide organizations to tiny county organizations that are sending a couple hundred postcards to their neighbors in a rural area because that's the best way to get to them. So no matter how small you think your town is or how big and unwieldy you think something is, we can help you here at Partnerships, partnerships at fieldteam6.org. You are a core part of our mission. Everything we do is in service of you on the ground. We cannot do, literally, like absolutely cannot exist without you. We also can't exist without Janet Elgase and Corey and all the people on the back end doing all that stuff that our partners are able to use, all the data work and all the setup for the phone banks and the text banks and the postcarding campaigns. And Sharon, we can't do that without them. We cannot do our work without you. It is imperative that we have you on the ground to work with us on scripting. We send you a demo script and you come back to us and you say, I love this part, but actually here's the way we say it where I live. I'd like to change this response because this word seems to work better in our community. Okay, you know. We don't. We're sitting pretty over here in Los Angeles. We don't always know what works in Alabama or Mississippi or West Virginia. Well, screw West Virginia. Anywhere else. But you know this. And we rely on you to tell us that, right? So you share all of the credit for this. You probably have more of the credit. This is your work. You are the warriors on the ground. We need you. We want you. We beg you to use the data that we have. Please, please come. I'm working with someone in Arkansas now. That makes me so happy. Wherever you are, we love you. Email us at partnerships@fieldteam6.com, and we cannot wait to work with you. Thanks.
All right. So fundraising is a big deal. Partnerships is a big deal. And lastly, Jason.
Penultimately, presence is a big deal. Presence as in social media presence in general. So this is another way that we're going to win. I've been doing videos 5 days a week on Instagram. Smash that subscribe button. And they've been getting some traction. They've been, some of them getting up to 40,000, 57,000 views. That's good just because it gets us it gets us visibility. And when people see what we're doing, they get excited. They become volunteers. They become donors. I recently had the honor to be interviewed by politics girl Lee McGowan on her podcast. She is amazing. When she pitched Field Team 6, it was better than I've ever done it. I was like, oh my God, I need to rewind that. I need to study her. She's fantastic and passionate and so smart. Such a great speaker and thought leader. And when that podcast posted, that the next few days were our best few days of fundraising all year, I think since March. Also, there was a huge influx of volunteers after that, and which continues even now. We're getting people in trainings who are like, oh yeah, saw Politics Girl showed up for, how to figure out how to register voters in person in Pennsylvania. It's so I would love to have videos from you. If you would like to make a video of yourself doing something, whatever one of our activities you're doing, or if you just like to talk about why you're in this fight, what inspired you to get into activism, an experience you had helping someone register on the phone or, in person, or an bonding experience you had with some other people at a postcarding party. Any aspect of this experience, I would love to see more of all your beautiful faces and not my ugly mug, even though I'm all freshly beautified with my hair. Seriously, make a video. It can be, there's no minimum length. Short and sweet is great. Send them to, there will be the link in the chat if it's not already, but you can send them to Dale at Field Team 6 and we will get them on. We want to see all the different faces of Field Team 6. Also, if you have any connections to any other podcasts or other media, Rachel Maddow, hello, anybody, any podcast at all that's political, deals with what we do, I will go on it. Another little point, just as kind of an add-on to the fundraising. If you know anyone who, if you have, say, 1 to 5 friends who are engaged in politics, who are scared about where the country is going and want to do something positive about it, might be interested in our work, have a Zoom party. I would love to come onto a Zoom party and pitch Field about a half hour in total. I pitch Field Team 6. That just takes about 10 minutes. Answer anyone's questions. It's really just a conversation and let them know how they can help by volunteering and donating. There's no pressure. I'm constitutionally incapable of a hard sell. So it's a fun time. And contact us and we can schedule those. Please drop in the chat who they should contact for that. So the next way we're going to win is Blue Voter Guide. So this is a super important way that we can win. It's by spreading the word about our sister project, bluevoterguide.org, which is the brainchild of our own Wayne Liebman. The number one reason low information voters do not vote all the way down the ballot is confusion about who to vote for, feeling unprepared. Bluevoterguide.org solves that problem. You type in your address, boom, there's your ballot. And next to every candidate, proposition, and judge, there's a list of all their endorsements by trusted progressive organizations. It's a great shortcut. So you can fill out your whole ballot in minutes instead of hours, and then print it, save it, share it with friends and family who might be seeking guidance and who to vote, which judges to vote for, stuff like that. It's super helpful. And it unlocks all your voting power so that Democrats are not just voting for the top of the ticket and leaving the rest. It's free, of course, and in 2024, it will be available in all 50 states. So please tell everyone you know. And this brings us to the single most important way that we win. There are all of these ways, and they all help, but the single most important one, of course, is you. And that, it's a mirror, that Corey actually worked on that technology with Peter. So if you get just the right angle, you do actually see yourself. Oh, did you catch? Oh, I don't know if you. Okay, so yes, I drew that. All right, so here to talk about all the different ways that you can volunteer and help out is Dale Roy Robinson. I'm going to be jumping in.
All right, you're going to jump in on this too.
I will.
All right, because Kala actually had to step away, so you're going to help me out with pasting links in the chat and all that kind of stuff, or anybody who's on the team can do that. By the way, there's lots of ways to volunteer. There's a whole host of ways, and the easiest way to find them all is to go to our website and go to the actions menu, and at the very top is volunteer ops. And what you will see there is a whole bunch of icons, so you can choose the thing that appeals to you most. And by the way, Jason and I are both very much in favor of you not doing something you don't want to do. We talk about this as the gymnasium thing. You don't go to the gym and do the thing that you don't want to do. You'll only go once. But if you go to the gym and you do the things that you want to do, you're going to get in better shape. And so we want you to do the things that you want to do. If you think phone banking is great and you have terrible handwriting, please don't postcard. Please come to the phone bank. If you think it's the opposite, if you would rather poke sharp pens in your eyes than make a phone call to somebody you don't know, then please come to the postcarding program. But we have all different ways that you can do this. There are text arcades where you can pay $25 and send 1,400 texts. By the way, anybody who's postcarded knows that is cheap money. Postcarders pay $1,300 to send 1,400 postcards because they buy the postcards and the stamps, and those are not cheap these days. I don't know if you've bought stamps recently, even postcard stamps. So anyway, go to fieldteam6.org, go to the actions menu, go to the very top option, which is volunteer ops, and look for the thing that you want to do. And by the way, if you scroll down far enough, there are trainings for everything. So if you want to learn how to send out pro-democracy, pro-Democrat messaging and get more volunteers to help us out with registering Democrats in swing states, you can get a training in social media on any number of platforms. Deb Verla just presented to us this week that we got 5 billion impressions on Twitter alone.
Abuse. We're not talking about, of course. And let me tell you,
I don't know who that was.
Sorry,
I'm not sure who that was.
Yes, the volunteer ops link is in the chat. Thank you, Joanne, for dropping it in. Joanne, our voter drive coach and trainer for in-person voter drive training in California, who's amazing.
Yeah, that's 5 billion impressions on Twitter alone just since we started with Deb. She started the trainings. She had 30 followers on Twitter. So don't believe that you have to be a pro at this to figure it out. She now has over 20,000 followers. She is friends with some of the biggest influencers on social media. Paula Poundstone reached out to her today and said, how can I help register more Democrats? And so Deb was emailing her back after we brainstormed some ideas. That's super exciting. Anyway, whatever it is that you're interested in doing. And by the way, behind the scenes works. Behind the scenes matters.
Like
Peter
helping us out
Hosey.
Behind the scenes. Yep.
Peter Hosey is behind the scenes. Peter Hosey doesn't call people to register them to vote. Peter Hosey doesn't text bank people that I know of. Peter, you might actually, I don't know. But Peter is doing amazing, amazing work behind the scenes.
Yes.
You also can do behind the scenes work. If you have a skill in almost anything, you can let us know at fieldteam6.org. Go to the website. Join Field Team 6 gives you a little Google form. You tell us what it is that you love to do. You love to paint fences. I'll bet you there's a painting fences thing we need to do that's going to register more Democrats. I don't know how that's going to work, but we're going to figure it out because that's the thing that you love to do. So come and join us. I don't care what you do. Come and join us. We're going to register more Democrats. We're going to win. Okay, so that's...
Can you tell us about happy hours by state?
Oh, yes. Yes. So this goes under partnerships, by the way. I want to talk about a partnership that we had in 2022. There was an organization called Blue CD2 New Mexico, which came to us and they said, hey, we see you have a postcarding program. We want to do postcarding in CD2 New Mexico. And we're like, that sounds terrific. Let's buy some data there with your help. And we bought 18,000 unregistered likely Democrats. They ended up sending 60,000 postcards. They registered over 5,600 of those people in the 18,000. 2,800 of them voted. And we know that Gabe Vasquez won by 1,346 votes. That's how we do it, people. That's how we do it. I told that story to Andrew McDonald, who may or may not be on this call. And he's in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he was like, I want to do that in Tennessee. I want to register 600,000 new Democrats in Tennessee in the next 6 years. And I was like, let's start. And so what did we do? We threw a happy hour. We threw a Tennessee happy hour. And Andrew McDonald was an organizing extraordinaire. Like, he was amazing. He was like the Brad Pitt of organizing. He reached out to candidates. He reached out to Dem clubs. He reached out to the county chairs of the Democratic Party in like a whole bunch of places in Tennessee. And he invited them all to this happy hour. And for an hour, I would talk to one person after another that represented these different organizations, these grassroots organizations, these candidates, these Dem clubs. And I would say, great, this is how Field Team 6 can partner with you to help register more Democrats. It was so successful. We're having another one this Thursday. Andy Wooldridge, if you're on the call, please post that link in the chat.
I just posted it.
Oh, it's already posted.
Hour. Yep.
Okay, great. And so this is how we do it. By the way, New Mexico inspired Andrew McDonald to do it in Tennessee. Tennessee is absolutely going to inspire somebody here today. I was talking to somebody in Ohio today who is going to show up to the Tennessee happy hour, and they want to do it in Ohio. I talked to somebody else earlier in the day who's in Arizona, and they're going to come as well. So yes, if you are interested in doing this, and by the way, anybody who is direct messaging me, I'll never find that message again. So you just have to ask me in the Q&A or something. But anyway. Yeah,
so these happy hours, by state, fantastic. We are working on one for Florida right now. I'm working on one for Michigan. If you'd like to help us organize one for another state, please come to us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. So
volunteer fairs. Can I bust in about that?
Yeah, do that.
They are a great way to get introduced. They're just an hour total. And they're a great way to get introduced in a very brief way to all the different things you can do. Postcarding, phone banking, text banking, social media storms, helping out behind the scenes, or with Blue Voter Guide. You pick like a little session, or we may have 3 different sessions over the course of a volunteer fair. You pick 3 sessions and see what you like, and sign up for an event at the end. We have our next one coming up on January 10th. I'm posting that in the chat. We also have a new thing called Welcome to Field Team 6 events, one every 2 weeks. They are for new volunteers or volunteer curious people who want to check out what we're doing. And similarly, we'll, with a smaller class size kind of, we'll go through what we do, see what you like, pair you up with something that can really help. Volunteer re-engagement, phone banks. We have phone banks. We're calling, these are the friendliest phone banks you will ever attend. We're calling people who have volunteered with us before and asking them if they'll come back and do what they did the last time. So if it's phone banking, we're asking them to come back and do that. If it's BYOP texting, we're doing that.
Can I talk about that a little bit, Jason?
Yes, please. And then go into the BYOP. Moonshot.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So BYOP is the answer to the question we asked in 2021. When we got through the Georgia runoff, and we had a whole pile of data, but zero money. And the question was, why can't we text people for free? And the answer was, we can. It's a little clunky, but we can. We built a spit and baling wired system that sits on top of our free phone banking system our software that comes with our database. And we are able to have volunteers send texts from their laptops using a Google Voice number. So Google Voice limits you to about 75 to 100 texts a day. but it is easy enough once you get set up to send those out while you're doing something else. You can be eating breakfast and sending out texts, or you can be on a Zoom call like this, sending out texts. And so there was a volunteer, and Deb, if you can find it and post it in the chat, I think we should shout this volunteer out. I don't remember their name, but they posted in the BYOP Slack channel, I don't know, maybe a month ago. And they said, I just want to remember that if we had 1,000 volunteers sending out 100 texts a day, we would be sending out 100,000 texts a day for free. And I was like, that's a great idea. I think we should do that. And so we set up this phone bank to call all of the BYOP volunteers who have successfully sent texts through BYOP. And we are going to start there. And we are going to start building our 1,000 volunteers who send out texts for free. Each one of them is going to send out between 75 and 100 texts a day. And if we get to 1,000, we could get through every textable number in our database in 60 days. And Patti will tell you that if we do that, we will get to register a third of them. That's amazing. So that's our Moonshot, BYOP Moonshot. That's going to take a lot of volunteers. And so we're going to start that. And so you should join that as soon as we get it going. Just check our volunteer ops, or check our newsletter for opportunities to join that.
Yes, you can join that every single week. We have a training for BYOP. You train, and by the end of the session, you are sending texts. So just join one of those, and you'll be helping us hit that moonshot.
That's right.
We need to build it up.
All right, we're at 6:15, Jason. We're an hour and 15 minutes in, and once we hit the hour mark, we start sucking the souls out of people's marrow.
It's true. It's inhumane to go longer than an hour, and I apologize for that. Last thing I want to say is about what we're doing, volunteering and innovative ways to win. We need to get to all 368,000 young people, 18 to 29-year-olds in our database. Here is where you can donate to help us register young people to vote. We all know about how crazy important getting young people registered is. We have them likely Democrats in our database. To reach them, we need your help. Okay, and now this is where I ask you to sign up go to any one of those links that we posted. I will drop the links again for all our volunteer opportunities. And please sign up for one event before you leave this meeting tonight. Donate if you can. It all helps. And before we take a few questions, I know it's getting late. If anyone wants to ask us questions, I do want to have a few minutes for that. Before that, I just want to say, in closing, when November 24 hits, we don't want to win in a nail biter this time. We've done that before. It was great. We're over it. This next November, let's shut them down. Let's say clearly, in one voice, as a nation, no to sexism, no to racism, no to homophobia, no to misogyny, no to transphobia, no to MAGA fascism. And let's say yes to women's rights, to abortion rights, to civil rights, to LGBTQ plus rights, to workers' rights, to voting rights, and to democracy. If there's anyone who can do it, it is all of you. So let's go.
All right. We're going to take 3 questions, and I'm going to bring Patti on screen because I have a feeling that somebody's going to ask her a question. So if you have a question, raise your hand. And Peter, Hosey, if you have any questions, you can hold them for later.
Let's take 5 questions. Take 5 questions.
Just kidding.
3 is too few. I feel bad.
Yeah.
If there are 5.
5? Okay, 5. All right, Judy Gordon, I'm going to ask you to unmute, and you can ask your question.
Hi. Thank you. I just have a quick question. You're talking about geniuses. I'll prove I'm not one. I'm wondering. I'm wondering why the yields. Well, you have for email, you have a yield of 46.94%, but then when you add postcards and SMS text, it goes down to 37.42. I would think additional outreaches would make it go up. So what aren't I understanding?
I know what Patty's going to say, and I'm excited for her to say it. Because this is exactly what I say all the time.
You mean correlation is not causation? That's what you think I'm going to say. But Judy, I actually answered your question in your private DM in the chat. But the interesting thing, even though we had very large ends in all of the 9 method combinations that we had, it's utterly dependent on which districts happen to be districts that had volunteer groups that said, oh, goody, we want to do postcards. And then another group that wanted to do X, and we may have seen Jason and Corey doing the analysis of, okay, this congressperson is vulnerable, so we're going to really try and pour energy into this district with the emails that we generate from inside Field Team 6, not necessarily through partners, etc. So there's a factor of randomness that if you only looked at the data we showed you, which was just us giving you the top line, it's actually 3-dimensional chess. You know how in Star Trek Leonard Nimoy always had that cool chessboard that was 3-dimensional? Well, there's so many variables associated with this that's exactly true. So the only way we could actually compare one combo to another combo is we'd have to have them both be in battleground districts or in battleground states with equivalent districts, and we'd have to match them in other ways. And it's possible to do that, although I can hardly believe the math that it takes to do, but that wasn't suitable for tonight's, top line overview presentation. So it doesn't, the extra methods doesn't actually take away. Typically what's going on in those extra method places is that they were probably only going to yield like 15%. They were such rough districts, and we kept going after them and going after them and going after them and yielding it out. The other thing you need to know is, guess what? Because you have to wait 6 months for the states to report back to you who actually registered. You have to sit and wait for that. You can't say, oh, everything's fine. All right, we've got all these new registrants and it's, November 1, so we can back off here. No, it's like November 1 next year, you can find out how you were doing on November 1 of the election year. So essentially, when you look at things, even like the terrible thing of polling, you just look at it, and we have to be as smart as we know how to be to pour in energy, and it all depends on our partners. There was a wonderful partner that funded in Nevada, and Dale, I want you to talk about them, but they were so fabulous, and they helped us so much. And
that's a great point, Patty. So yes, in Nevada, if you look at the chart, and we will make these slides available, in Nevada, we had a 15-point-something% return on registrations instead of like the crazy high numbers other places like Wisconsin or whatnot. And part of the reason is that there is that transience in Nevada. And part of it was that we had a wonderful, wonderful volunteer who worked with her organization. It's Angel Trinan and Onward Toward Progress. And they adopted Nevada, and they raised, Jason, how much was it? It was $55,000 for us to do voter registration in Nevada. But it took time to raise that money. And so we were not working the entire cycle there. We had to raise the money, then we had to buy the data, then we had to do the outreach. And that took time. And so what we were doing was we were doing work that was later, rather than like building this foundation and keeping these messages going over 2 years, which is, of course, that is also super effective. So yeah, that's, by the way, we have plans. Jason could probably post that in the chat if it's not already in there somewhere. Our adopt a state plans for all of the 11 states we're working in the 24 cycle. And if you want to do what Angel did, and you want your group, your circle of friends, your family and friends, your DIM club, your grassroots organization to adopt a state and raise the money for us to do outreach, first to the data that we already own, and then to buy data that we don't already own and to do outreach to that. There's all the numbers are in there. You can do that. You can let us know that you're adopting it, and we'll take it off the table so that other people are donating to other states. That'll be great. Anyway, let's keep going. Alice, you're up.
Yes. So Patti, what are the key takeaways from 22 that you would like to apply to 24?
Well, the first one is email is killer, partially because we have these brilliant writers at Field Team 6, and Jason himself, a Hollywood comedy writer, and Dale, a producer, and Corey Alpert, our strategist. They all, as I tease them, they give great email, and it's really important, and it's partisan. And the ability to do that, even though we all pretend we don't read our emails, we have now learned that if we can get our hands on an email address and we combine email with some other methods, that's amazing. The second thing is that rates don't drop off.
Just want to shout out our script team captain, Melanie Burgess.
Oh, Mel does an amazing job with that. Another thing that we know is that, interestingly enough, the rates of registration for people who, got more than 1.85 or 1.92 touches, that person who got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, guess what? They still register at high rates. So that essentially the water torture method of drip, drip, drip over a 2-year period, as opposed to being irritating, it's like, all right, no, finally, I'm going to do this. And so one of my takeaways is don't back off too soon. People give up too soon, and we don't want to do that. And the third thing.
There's also the long tail, which means that there's work that for example, there's work that we did in 2020 that turned into registrations in the months in early 2021. We didn't realize that, just because we reached out to them before the November election, that they would still get registered even though the election had passed, and they did. And that still matters. And
a bunch of people
coming up.
Had postcards on their kitchen table from Field Team 6 volunteers, and then the insurrection happened. And guess what they did? They went in and they said, okay, now I'm doing it. Now I'm registering. And so they are showing up as we go forward. So we love it.
All right. I actually don't have any other hands raised, and it is 6:26. So I think we should wrap this up. So anybody who has direct messaged me, I've missed it in the chat. I'm sorry. Anybody who has asked to contact me, it's dale@fieldteam6.org. Anybody that would like to reach partnerships, it's partnerships@fieldteam6.org. Anybody that has any other questions that are not addressed here but would like to get a question answered, just info@fieldteam6.org. There's a whole team of volunteers that will answer your questions or pass you to the right person so that they can answer the questions. We love your questions. We love you. Kathy, nice to see you. Waving to Kathy in Seattle. She's my go-to when I create a new social media asset and I don't have time to write it. Kathy bails me out time and time again. Thank you, Kathy.
Wait, oh my God. Do you see that? Is that a mountain on the horizon? It's a blue wave. Oh my God. That is the hugest blue wave I've ever seen. Keep going, people. You're doing such a good job. You're doing such meaningful, effective work. We love you for it. And if we keep going, we got a whole year, a little less, because voter registration deadlines start hitting about a month before the election. But November 5th, we're going to knock it out of the park. And let's try to crush this MAGA fascist Trumpism for good. See if we can't do that,
And we're out.
Good night, everyone.